Hello, hello, hello. Where's Miss Cass? I'm glad you asked. Hey, everybody, it's your girl, Miss Cass, Vice President of Community Engagement for Exit Strategy Realty, Vice President, I already said that. Principal broker for the Aspire Group powered by Exit Strategy Realty. It's been a long day, okay? Your neighborhood realtor, investor, and educator, heavy on the education, connecting you to the community through real estate. And I am super excited to present to you all Equity in Action, a fair housing series. This is actually session number 3, you all. After today, we have one more session. And today I am super excited to welcome our guest speaker, Joy Sinegar Muñoz. She is a real estate expert, a mortgage expert, and a generational wealth advocate with over 20 years in mortgage lending. Joy is passionate about helping families across the country achieve home ownership and build generational wealth. Now, she is a proud Navy daughter. Root, root, shouts out, Navy daughter. And she brings a heart for service, especially for military families. If you go to her rate office in Bronzeville, you will see an entire space dedicated to veterans. So shouts out to our veterans tonight who might be watching. She helps first-time home buyers as well as underserved communities, and she's always in the streets. Kind of like myself. That sound familiar, right? She specializes in VA, FHA, conventional, and 203K renovation loans and down payment assistance programs as well, because everybody needs a little more help to the closing table. Joy is known for creating smart, accessible pathways to ownership, and as a leader with Rate, she delivers on-time closings, practical solutions, and an unwavering commitment to getting clients to the closing table. Whew. Let's welcome Joy Sinegar Muñoz. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, girl. You got my cheeks hurting because that was such an amazing, amazing intro. But thank you so much, Cass. We always bumping into each other in the streets, and I'm just so amazed at what you do, and it's great to be here today. So thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So listen, we are jumping right in, right?
Let's do it.
In honor of Fair Housing Month, I really feel like one of the things that people need to understand is the history of lending, where we were versus where we are. So let's take them through that journey. And I want to start by asking you, as a lender, can you share a little bit about where the industry was prior to fair housing, or what are some things that helped to shape fair housing, specifically redlining and things of that nature?
Oh, absolutely. So you mentioned veterans. We know that the GI Bill was supposed to be that magic carpet to the middle class, but unfortunately, it did not have the same effect for our Black veterans back then. And the reason that happened was because the VA didn't directly regulate them administering the loan. So in places like the Jim Crow South, obviously they were going to pick and choose who they wanted to give the benefit to. So in Mississippi, I believe in 1946, somewhere around there, they may have given out 3,000 loans, of which maybe 3 were given to someone who was Black. So, and when you kind of look at that broadly over the whole US, that number is even smaller. So, my dad went through the same thing. My dad came out of the military. And at that time, there were still the remnants of redlining. And we're talking in the 70s, where, they really gave him a hard time about purchasing in certain areas just based on his VA benefit. So, a lot has changed since then. The VA definitely regulates and sets specific guidelines that prohibit discriminatory practices and predatory lending for people of all colors, but especially Black consumers. But it definitely wasn't that. And that wasn't a very long time ago.
That was not a very long time ago. And so I learned more, and I'm learning more and more about the practices and how a lot of the practices that we saw in that era, a lot of that actually came from practices that were right here, boots on the ground here in Chicago. And
Absolutely.
I learned about how it influenced not only different states, but also different countries on how to utilize policy in order to, push forward systematic racism. And so it's
Mhm.
really interesting that you talked about the VA. I want to come back to that at some point because I still
Mhm.
feel like there is a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to VA buyers, right? I don't feel like
Yes,
they get the love and the support that they deserve. Talk
true.
to me a little bit about lending back in those eras and the impact
Mhm.
of lending in, like you mentioned Jim Crow South. Talk a little bit about
Yeah.
redlining. And again, redlining happened right here in Chicago, as
It
a matter
happened here. We
right
really don't
here.
have to go that far back.
You don't have to look,
When we
we don't have
talk,
to go very far outside either.
right. We're the middle South when you think about it, because a lot of the redlining practices occurred here. And the way that they did that was legally, because again, it was legal.
Yeah,
Segregation was legal at that time. They were able to put specific verbiage in the deeds that indicated that someone who was not non-white could never purchase in that area. So as a result, today, when people say, "Oh, Chicago is super segregated," we know this, right? Every Chicagoan knows it. We live in these areas because it was set up that way by design. So you have
correct.
like your North Side, what is it, Lakeview? Those places had those discriminatory deeds that limited the movement of blacks from the South, which is like, this mostly black here, to moving north because of these restrictive deeds.
Absolutely. And one of the communities that I am very passionate about, and so are you. We actually just got done being a part of the By the Block cohort with them in
Yes.
Inglewood, right? So shouts out again to
Shout to Ray.
Ray, President Association of Greater Inglewood. Inglewood had a huge deficit financially, and it's still
Absolutely.
struggling due to restricted covenants and
Hmm.
those practices that, like you said, we're not so far away. I mean, if we look back at history, it hasn't happened that far, that much long ago, and it's still
Hmm.
a community that has suffered, even though Inglewood is definitely on the rise again, right? They're seeing a
It
resurgence.
is.
But Inglewood is not the only community that has experienced that. So it's so interesting to hear you talk specifically about the redlining. I remember a story that my parents shared with me. And I think at one point Western was the cutoff. Like we couldn't
Yeah.
go, I don't think we could go west of Western.
It
Um,
used to be Halstead. I remember that. So Halstead,
there you go.
Bridgeport, Canaryville area was like prohibited.
Correct.
And to this day, those covenants are still there. And there's, I mean, I'm sure there's something that could be done to remove that
Yeah,
from the history, but I do think it's important that it stays, because the second you take it away, I think people forget how close that practice was to today. It's like if we slow down, the history of what happened is going to step on our heels no matter what. So we
absolutely.
have to keep that history there so that people know why it is the way it is, so that we can fix it. We can fix the problem.
Absolutely. Because they say if you don't think about history, right? If you don't consider it, we are doomed to repeat it.
We
And
will
that
repeat
is
it.
so true. We're seeing that in certain communities today. Shouts out real quick to Miss Edna, my exit strategy realty team member. She is actually joining us from OKC. So shouts out to Miss Edna. She's
Awesome.
actually in Oklahoma seeing her son. So shouts out to you and
Awesome.
Sunshine.
Hey.
Enjoy. But yeah, it is really, really important. And I can share a personal story from my parents and my aunt who actually stayed on Princeton. She stayed on, I want to say it was like 40th and Princeton. We
Okay.
were always told when I was a child, do not go under the underpass,
I know exactly what you're
right?
talking about.
Because
Yep.
you have the park right there, but then you
Hmm.
have that underpass, and we were told don't go under that underpass. And so, even though these some of our communities are changing, that trauma is still inside
Hmm.
of us. And so,
Absolutely.
even now, when I drive in certain areas, it's really hard for me, even as a realtor, to have an open mind because I saw the hate. I experienced that. And so that trauma is embedded in us. And I think
It
it's
is.
important that we talk about that. But yeah, so redlining was one of the things that really, really shut us out. In
Hmm.
addition to that, let's fast forward to, the early 2000s, right? Talk to me a
Hmm.
little bit about predatory lending and what that did to our community.
So predatory lend, because I've been in the industry a very long time, so I've seen kind of like the rise and fall of that. And I do know that there were a lot of loan investors, loan companies that were taking advantage of Black and brown consumers based on primarily, number one, the jargon. They don't get the terminology, the contracts, what this means, what a balloon payment is. But also during that time, they took advantage of consumers that did not speak the English language, because for a very long time, none of that verbiage needed to be in their language of origin. They just had to sign, right? So I don't want to mention any names, but in Chicago, there was a huge predatory lending task force put in place because we had people, Hispanic people primarily, being targeted by a company. Okay, I'm not going to say the name, you guys know, but they targeted Hispanic home buyers who essentially signed their lives away and lost those homes. So we had a huge influx of people losing their homes because they didn't understand balloon payments. They didn't understand adjustable rates. They didn't understand any of those things. So in addition to the language barrier, you had people who, I like to call it the kitchen table talk. You have people that never grew up with talking about, mortgages, interest rates, what a balloon payment is. So they preyed on their lack of understanding how a mortgage works. So you had people signing away, knowing they couldn't afford it, knowing that there could possibly be balloon payments or additional payments after the fact. And that was it. They walked away, made a lot of money, but it caused us to fall into financial ruin.
And I thought about that because as a realtor, even before I got into the industry, I actually fell victim to predatory lending. I purchased a property in 2006. And at that point, I didn't see the signs. I didn't know what was on the horizon. Right. So I purchased this building, and I thought, this is my foundation. I'm starting. I'm an investor now. This building is going to help to lead the charge in my effort to become an investor. But what I didn't know is the rates were out of control.
Yeah.
The balloon payments were ridiculous. But to your point, if you don't have the right people on your team,
right,
it can really be harmful. And I did not have the right people on my team. And this was prior to me coming into the industry. As a matter of fact, that is what inspired me to come into the industry, because I said this terminology, the language, the jargon, I just didn't know it. And I openly trusted someone blindly. And they led me, they led me to
led you astray.
They led me astray.
But that's the reality of it. The same thing with reverse mortgages. Today, reverse mortgages are not what they were in the past. A lot of Black consumers, elderly Black consumers, lost their homes because they didn't understand how a reverse mortgage worked. And furthermore, they were afraid to tell their heirs or their family members or beneficiaries, like, hey, I'm taking out a reverse mortgage. This is what it means to you if I pass. And now HUD has regulated how we educate around reverse mortgages. So, again, this is something that happened. I remember people in the early 2000s losing their home to reverse mortgages from companies that would just come in, one night, have people sign up. Next thing you know, your loved one passes away and they have this huge mortgage attached to the property. So things are getting better, but there's still some room for reform.
There's definitely some room for reform, and there is absolutely a need for education. I feel like we should do a series like the miseducation of VA, the miseducation of reverse mortgages. We shouted out Miss Edna earlier. She's actually done a reverse mortgage, so she knows exactly what someone has to go through, but not many elders in our community understand it. And because of the history, they shy away from it because, again, it's trauma related.
Absolutely.
They've heard some of their family and loved ones that have gone through that process and were not successful. So I'm so glad that we're talking about this, because I think that deserves its own session.
It does.
So we'll have to make a note of that. You all keep
as with generational trauma, you talk about that, and it actually is a thing. People don't realize that conversations about financial matters around your children leaves an imprint. So even right now, if you're having this conversation with your child, they pick up on things that you don't think, that they pick up on. So even if it's housing insecurity, or you see your grandmother lose her home, so she has to move in with you all, or, you have an uncle that, lost a home because, he had a bad deal or whatever the situation is, that becomes imprinted, whether you believe it or not. And we just keep passing that on to each generation because we haven't been taught the alternative. So that is a true thing. When people hear generational trauma, it's not a made up phenomenon. It's a real thing.
Yeah, well, we have to be exposed to the possibilities, right? We've seen what happens when things go wrong. What we need to be more exposed to as a community is when things go right.
Absolutely.
And so I'm so glad that we're actually highlighting that. So let's get back down that timeline. So we got fair housing, we have redlining, then we have predatory lending. When we think about where we are as a community, and you can keep it extremely general, right? Before we go on, though, I must say hi to Facebook, hi to LinkedIn, and also anybody that's watching on YouTube. Instagram, sometimes Instagram is my friend and sometimes it is not. So if you're not seeing me on Instagram, well, you won't see this because you won't see me on Instagram.
We'll share it
We'll share it on Instagram, right? However, I think it's important. I just want to shout out everyone. Please feel free to comment, engage. We can see your comments, especially if you're on Facebook. We're able to see those comments. So feel free to engage. This is an opportunity for you all. We dedicated this time for you. Joy and I can sit on the phone and talk about this in private all day long. And we do.
And we have, yeah.
We have. But this is really an opportunity for the public, for you to have the conversation with us, right? Engage with us, ask questions. There is no such thing as a silly question. And in honor of Fair Housing Month, I think it's so appropriate that we have these conversations because we need to be able to identify where those gaps are.
Absolutely.
Hi, Jimmy. Wait a minute. Oh my God, we literally just got done.
Done talking about you.
One of our various phone calls, of course. We love you too. And he's an artist. So shouts out to Jimmy Stewart over the CHA Choose to Own Home Ownership Program, amongst many other things. And he's also an artist. So if you are not following him, go and follow him and you will see all his artistic creativity oozing out of his pores.
Drop a link, Jimmy. Drop the link.
Drop the link so we can share it. Shouts out to Jimmy Stewart. We love you too. But yeah, it's super, super important that this conversation is had. I want to back up a little bit because we started talking about, the trauma and just access to education and exposure and gaps. We talked about gaps, educational gaps, wealth gaps. What are you seeing in the market as it relates to our community in terms of how far we are in respect to other cultures in our community?
We have work to do. I know that for sure. We definitely have work to do. I know that, nationally, the home ownership gap is about 46%. I think here in Chicago, it's less than that. It's a little under, it's like maybe closer to like 42 or 43%, depending on what year you're analyzing. But the major thing that I am seeing is the lack of down payment resources, right? Usually in other cultures, there's a transfer of wealth through generations, right? So either you'll see a consumer has a large savings, or maybe they have a grandparent that can gift them a sizable amount of money. But I find that more of us have to either borrow the money, take down payment assistance, or just don't have the expendable cash to be able to close their transaction. And as an advocate, as are you, I see it as a barrier, but the solution is to leverage that down payment assistance for the borrower. But we need to identify why there is that wealth transfer gap between generation. Why does the grandparent not have the money to give to the parent, who can then give the parent the money to give to the child, so that the child can just pay it forward to their next generation? So that's what I'm seeing more. I'm also seeing that Black single women are purchasing at a much higher rate than anyone. Let
Let's
like
go.
like they are definitely leading the charge with that. So
Let's
um, and,
go.
and a lot of them too are first generation home
It's
buyers,
true. It's
and
true.
these ages range from is 35 to 60 first generation home buyers, but
Yeah.
they are taking the charge to kind of build that foundation for the next generation. So
They
I'm
are the
seeing
curse
that.
breakers, right? They're the
Yes.
generational curse breakers. Round of applause for them, real quick. Round of applause for them. Yes.
Yes.
I love that. And so, one of the other things that I saw, it was an article that I saw recently that said 20 million women have become homeowners. And so, not
Awesome.
just Black women, right? Yes, that we are certainly leading the charge, but in general, women have just become kind of like the leader
We're
in terms of ownership. And this is single women at that, right?
mhm.
Women that have just decided, I am not waiting on the husband, or
I'm not waiting on the ring.
I'm waiting on the ring, right?
Right.
I am going to secure the land because it is time. And if I don't secure this land, there's an opportunity that I might not have a chance to do that. Um,
Yes.
you also mentioned something about the intergenerational passing down of wealth. And
Correct.
one of the things that I saw during COVID, and I speak to this because it was very, very, um, it was heartbreaking, it was saddening, but it was also a call to action. When the rates dropped, I saw all of these owners who have been owning for decades, right, try to attempt to refinance.
Hmm.
One of the things that I feel like has held us back and is holding us back right now, we got to talk more about it, is appraisal bias.
Yes.
Right? Because when I saw some of our community members and some of our community owners attempting to simply get an appraisal, they were given the runaround. The value was not there, and they knew the value was there. Some of them actually had to dispute the appraisal. I mean, during COVID,
Yeah.
there were several instances where there was international and national news about situations in Chicago, outside of Chicago,
Hmm.
Rhode Island, New York was one of the places that came up, and Chicago was one of the places. As a matter of fact, someone that I know personally had to go through that process of appraisal bias. Can you speak
Yes.
to the impact that that has had on us? Because what I saw from my perspective was
Hmm.
people in other communities were able to pull some of that hard-earned equity down to purchase another property, to give the money to the son or daughter, right? To start them off on that real estate journey. What were some of the things that you saw in COVID
Hmm.
in terms, and just in general, right, in terms of
Yeah.
financing? What are some things that you're seeing on your end?
So definitely saw a lot of appraisal issues as far as like undervaluation. Sometimes rent schedules would be lower than they should have been for that market. But it's all residual effects
Yes.
of the redlining. So if we really peel back the layers on where appraisal bias comes from, we look at the divesting of wealth in the beginning when they
Yes.
started segregating these areas, because for a time you couldn't even get a mortgage in those redlined areas. So the recording of value looks different in, say, Inglewood or these
Yes.
places because there's no established history. So in addition to that, sometimes you have a lack of appraisal diversity, we'll say, where they understand the market that they are in, where they may have a gauge on what rents look like in that specific area. So it's a combination of those things. The appraisers can be biased without it being purposeful, right? It can be a bias that is built by the establishment before that
Correct.
they are just basing their fact on as they do their evaluations. So we ran into that. But I tell people that the most important thing about working with someone who is an advocate, whether it is a real estate agent or a lender or both, is that they will definitely pick up the torch and fight for you to get you the value you deserve. And, either we're both going to collaborate. I'll pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, can you give me some comps for
Right.
this area so that I can take it back and push back with the appraiser so that the consumer can get the funds that they need to take care of the much needed repairs in their home or put a child through school or open a business, whatever they want to use it for.
Whatever they
So
want to
that's important.
use. Yes.
Yep. That's
Wow.
important. So have an advocate. It can happen. And again, I don't think that appraisers are always doing it with intent to be biased. I think that it's just the foundation, the remnants of the ripple effects of the foundation that was laid by redlining.
I agree. I think that it's sometimes it's just autopilot, right? This is how it's been done. I'm going to continue to do it this way. It works for me, but it doesn't work for us,
Mm-hmm. It
right?
doesn't work for us.
So we have to sound that alarm. And I think a lot of times
Absolutely.
owners don't understand their rights when it comes to appraisal bias. And so
Right.
that's one of the things, another thing that look deserves its own show.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we help to educate our community on the steps if we disagree. And then as
Absolutely.
realtors, I feel like sometimes realtors and even real estate agents don't understand that we can talk to an appraiser. Like if an appraiser
Yeah.
comes, I'm talking to you, I'm showing you comps, here's what we're looking at. What else do you need?
I
Right?
say be present. Like I
Right.
tell, if you're selling a home, I'm like, do not have the seller there because they're gonna say everything that they shouldn't say. The
Right.
seller should be gone. Have your listing agent there with the appraiser because we've had instances where seller says too much and then it becomes an issue with the appraisal. So,
Mhm.
but if you do have a listing and there's no reason why that appraiser should be there without you if
Correct.
you're a listing agent.
Correct. Be engaged in that conversation. Have some comps in front of you and
Bring your
share. Hey,
comps.
this is what I'm seeing. If you don't have them in front of you, pull up your tablet, pull out your laptop, and say, "Here,
Mm-hmm.
I've actually compiled a list of similar comps." I also think that that sets a precedence to say, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
I've done my due diligence, right? I've done my homework. I am confident that you'll do the same, but I've already done what I need to do to make sure that you understand where those numbers are, so that there really isn't any guesswork, right? And
Right.
if they pull it and you disagree, that's fine. Go through the steps if
Mm-hmm.
you want to appeal it. Go through the steps if you don't agree. But I just feel like a lot of people in our community have no idea that that's even something that is possible. And
Oh
then
yeah.
there's a sense of like shame, right? So I'm not going to tell anybody that this happened to me. I feel like it happens so often. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, we have this veil of pride over us. We won't tell people, like, oh, yeah, I was trying to pull money out, but you know what? That didn't work because I couldn't get the proper amount based on the appraisal. I feel like sometimes it just is swept under the rug and it adds to that trauma.
Trauma, I was just saying. So the trauma is when you've been dismissed for so long, right? You just feel like, what's the point of saying anything if no one's ever going to do anything about it? You can, no matter what it is, whether it's, discrimination in healthcare, people stop going to the doctor because they feel like you're going to dismiss what's going on with me anyway. The same applies to the housing crisis that we're in. If I can't pull my equity, then it just must be something that I've done wrong. Maybe it's my fault that it doesn't happen. So we internalize it and we just kind of struggle with whatever cards we've been dealt. Well, that doesn't have to be that way.
And it doesn't work. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't work, and it absolutely does not help to push our community that much closer to our goal of having more owners in our
Right.
properties. And so
Absolutely.
that's extremely important for us to understand, is that our don't have so much pride that we don't speak up. There are resources out here, whether it's I went through a short sale. I didn't have anybody to tell me, hey, this is how you deal with the short sale. Now there
Mm-hmm.
are so many agencies and organizations that are out here that are walking people through that process to say, you don't have to worry about that short sale. You don't have to lose your home. You can do this, 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 and this.
And this, yeah.
This, it didn't always exist. So I think too, we have to be in the right rooms. We have to make
Yes.
sure that we are amongst like-minded people. And sometimes that is not your family. I'm just going to be honest. Sometimes it's
No.
people that don't necessarily live the same way you live, right? Sometimes
Right.
good to get into another culture to understand how their brains work. I grew up in the
Absolutely.
back of the yards community, and one of the things that I learned was that that community looks out for one another. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I saw families who would live in one house. It would be 3 or 4 families in
Mm-hmm.
single home. But what will happen year over year is you would see one family move out in a couple of years,
Take
right?
your own place. Yep.
Then the second family will move out in a couple of years. And that would just be like a continual cycle. That is the way that we used to be, right? So
Yeah.
intergenerational living, I see that it's back, and it's probably back because of the high cost of living, because of high taxes. We have our seniors who are aging out. My mother's suffering from dementia, so obviously she can't live on her own. We have an
Mm-hmm.
entire population who's starting to age out. And so that either means that they're going to go into a senior facility. Some of them, unfortunately, are going into other facilities, assisted living.
Yeah.
Some need, some have independent living, but for a lot of us,
Mm-hmm.
loved ones are coming and moving in with us. So we're
And
being,
that's how it should be,
that's how it
and
is.
and I encourage people to get away from the thought process of when your child turns 18, they
Kick them
got to
out.
go. It's like, this is the ample time for them to decide, what do I want to do? Do I want to go to school? Do I want to save? Do I want to? Don't put your children out, because homes with wealth typically don't do that. They allow their children to get a good foundation, and then they allow them to transition when it's right for them. Oftentimes we kick our kids out, they go rent, and then they're put into that cycle. And it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be that way. And oftentimes they won't even tell us that they're struggling because of the way that
The
we,
stigma of,
yeah,
once you're out, you can't come back. And
correct.
that shouldn't be the case.
It shouldn't be the case. And I'll be transparent. When I was 40, is it 40? Yeah, when
Mm-hmm.
I was 40,
Well,
42.
baby, I didn't know you was 40. You okay, go ahead.
Well, I'll be 48 in
Oh
September.
wow.
But
Okay.
yeah, when I was mid, I would say during the beginning of COVID, life started life for me. I was still in the industry. I moved back home. I slept on my mother's
That's
couch.
right.
I met my husband. I went over his house one day and never left. That's a whole nother child. That is a
You
totally
got to teach a class on that, honey.
okay. Do not recommend, you all. Listen to me. Do not recommend. But for me, it was 10 out of 10. And tomorrow we celebrate our 4th anniversary.
Aw.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying all that to say that sometimes we have to reset. And in
Yeah.
that moment, I knew that I had to reset. I was in the industry. I had done very well, especially, unfortunately, I did very well during COVID. I mean, it was a
Hmm.
time for our community and for our nation, for the world. But real estate itself, us being essential workers, a lot of us never missed a beat. The rates came down, people were shopping, and we were like closing all over the place. Bottles was popping everywhere, and then the
Yeah.
market corrected itself. And so we saw some agents who stayed in the industry. We saw some agents who did not stay in the industry. But I had to reset. And I'm
Hmm.
next to that reset, being able to say in my 40s, hey, I'm going back home.
Hmm.
I'm getting ready to sleep on this couch. And I purposely slept on the couch because I didn't want to get comfortable. I
Right.
wanted that couch to be a constant reminder of me trying to establish the foundation so that I could then pivot into the next season. And
Absolutely.
that one decision allowed me to not only pivot, it allowed me to meet my, at the time, boyfriend, who turned into my fiance, who went straight to husband. And, it allowed us to purchase our first building, and it allowed us to do a lot of different things. And since then, I've been able to do so much as a result of that one decision. And so I'm gonna wrap this up just to say, if we have to reset, it's okay as a
It's
community.
okay.
To
No
stop
shame.
stigmas on us needing to have a reset, right? Whether you're 40,
Hmm.
35, 50, if you need to reset, do what you need to do for the longevity of your well-being. So I'll shut up
Break
because
the trauma.
my soap
Break the trauma. No,
break through
that's a
that.
way to break the trauma. You should always be able to go home. You should always be able to tell your children, hey, the door is always open for you. You don't have to leave the moment you turn 18. And let's face it, these kids nowadays, they don't, I mean, it's harder. I feel like when I was 18, it was a much easier life. everything was cheaper. I could, get in apartments or just get an apartment like that. And
Yep.
credit wasn't really a huge factor. So
Nope.
nowadays, these kids really have to have it together. You either got to have your job, your financial situation squared out, your credit has to be decent.
Yep.
And if you're picking up, student loans, what's the process with that? So they have it a little harder than we do. So please give them some grace.
Give them some grace, and the same grace you extend to them, extend to yourself.
Yes.
The other thing that I'll say about that is I feel like we sometimes, because I've done it, I feel like as soon as we do get our credit fixed, the first thing we want to do is go get a car. Right?
Yeah.
We want to drive around in that automobile to let people know how hard we've worked. And one of the things that we had to decide to do as a family for a few years was not get a car loan. And even that one decision, I went and paid cash for a car. And then one time I had to actually go and put money down, and I paid the dealership, right? Instead of them hitting my credit, I had to pay the dealership, and they weren't worried about it because they had tags and location tags throughout the car. So if you don't pay, guess what? You wake up and your car is gone. Trust me, I've been there before it happened to me. Full transparency. But I think decisions like that also help to propel you into that ownership mindset. So while we're talking about that, 35, 36 minutes into this conversation, let's pivot and talk a little bit about how we set our communities up for success. What are 3 things that you think is beneficial, right, to someone who is looking to own? Give us 3 tips.
Education. Become a expert of the industry. So understand what the interest rates are. Talk to as many people as you can. Don't let someone tell you something that isn't true. Do your research. Definitely education is number 1. Number 2, use individuals who are advocates. So yeah, you can find a realtor anywhere. You can go on Facebook and look someone up. But understanding what an advocate is, this person is going to fight to make sure that you have the best terms, whether it's your loan, whether it's your sales contract. Find people that are advocates, whether you look at, National Association of Real Estate Brokers, NAREP, find someone who is already doing the work so that they will make sure to support you in the right way.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing is to take ownership of your transaction. Don't allow yourself to just be a puppet and be moved in whatever direction that your professional is telling you. Make sure you understand why we're moving a certain way. And if you don't understand it, ask the appropriate questions. And like you said, Ms. Cass, there is no dumb question. Ask as many questions. And if you're made to feel dumb, find another professional.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I don't see any more questions or comments, so we just gonna keep this conversation going. But one of the other things that I think is important that you talked about was the education piece. It's oftentimes, you and I have done educational workshops, we've done webinars. Our goal is to always reach out to as many people in our community as possible. And I feel like sometimes it's deflating to see a room that is partially filled, knowing the need in the community, right? And I'll give you an example. We did our tax talk. We had the county assessor come to Raid in Bronzeville. We didn't make any excuses for anybody, right? We brought food, we bought beverages, we bought Cook County assessor, and we looked around, and even with all of the tax talk that was going on, the fears, the anger, the anguish, that room was still partially filled. And so I feel like as a community, we have to prioritize being in those rooms, whether we're tired and we're just getting off work. We were tired. We had did a full day.
Yeah, I saw you twice that day. We were literally running around all day.
We had a full day of work, and yet and still we made time for the community to come out to a safe space, to talk one-on-one with the Cook County Assessor's Office at the time, to talk about any myths that they have heard, any assistance that they needed. And I feel like these workshops are so beneficial to our communities. And let me just say this to the public. When we are hosting these community webinars, whether it's virtual, these community sessions, whether it's in person, make time to come and actually engage.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy. Coming up with the series and trying to make sure that I grab professionals every Wednesday at 7 p.m., trying to coordinate schedules. And I still have clients and people that I assist. This is not easy, but we know that the work has to be done.
It
And
does. And
if this
you
session is
know,
one person, it's all worth it. What were you going to say, Joy?
no, I was just saying that too. If you cannot make it, pass it along.
Pass it along.
Pass it along. Tell your neighbor. We had a lady that came, she brought a neighbor with her.
Yeah.
So just tell as many people as you can, because this information is vital. And even though it may not apply to you, you could really help somebody else just by passing it along.
And start those conversations. This is the season where we need to be talking about this. I'll give you an example. What's up, Yvette Jones Swanson? She is a veteran expert, Joy. If you have not connected to her, please connect.
Hey, Yvette.
Amazing.
I sure will.
And we might need to even have her come in for a session, because she has been an advocate for the veteran community for decades. When
Awesome.
I say so yeah, make sure that you all connect. She is saying same in
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So now that she mentioned that, you talked about the misconceptions, misinformation about the VA program, right? And one of the major things, it just gets under my skin when I hear agents say, oh, well, they're not putting any money down. They have no skin in the game, or 0%. This just seems like a flaky deal. It just drives me insane, because these people have earned this benefit.
Yes.
The reason why they have no down payment is because they earned this benefit. And to just disregard a veteran's offer just based on that is that's bananas to me. Absolutely. That needs to change.
I'm saying we, as the real estate industry, we have to educate ourselves so that we can educate the community. If we are walking around with these myths in our heads and they're swimming around free, and we don't take the time to educate ourselves, guess what? We are regurgitating that misinformation onto our community, whether it be to a seller, whether it be to a buyer. It doesn't matter if they don't put money down. They shouldn't have to put money down. Honestly, they shouldn't have earned it at all.
They shouldn't.
But here we are.
But they earned it. They earned that benefit.
But here we are. Speaking as a veteran, I didn't even know my father was a veteran, because guess what? He didn't talk about it. And guess why he didn't talk about it? Because of trauma. I did not know that my father was a veteran. Yvette is just letting us know she's been in the industry for 25 years. Hold on, let me shout her out.
Yvette.
Okay. And she writes about it. And she posted her website. So Joy, that is
her mentor online. Okay. Look, we need to do a segment just on that. I feel like it's so important.
She does consistent webinars. She's on LinkedIn almost every other day. I might be exaggerating, but I don't think I am. She's on LinkedIn all the time, educating people on how to become better of the veteran community. So shouts out to her.
Yes, the VA does guarantee. Yeah. So she's absolutely right. They definitely, I feel like we mistreat our veterans. I really feel that way.
Let's talk about it. Absolutely. Fair housing. I think that when people think about fair housing, we think about the obvious, right? Race, sex. No, let's talk about the inequities with our veteran community.
With our veterans, with our disabled
veterans. Let's talk.
And it's like, I've had veterans come to me and say, I went to another lender, but they told me because I have disability income, I can't use it to get a home loan. I'm like, are you crazy? Tell me the lender so I can say something about that. Like, you need to know that veterans should have priority in this situation when it comes. If you get an offer from a vet, do not discount the fact that they are putting no money down. The government is stepping up for them so that they don't have to put a down payment.
Absolutely. So Jimmy and Yvette are hanging out together in the comments. I love it.
I can't comment back. I tried, but I'm definitely gonna
I
look
love
that
it.
up.
Yeah, but definitely look that up. Um, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for engaging. And look, there's enough community out here for all of us, right? And all
Yes,
of our specialties. We can collaborate. That's the thing, the collaboration over competition. So we are all for it. Absolutely for it.
from homeless to homeowner. I love that.
No, there you go. And that's
Absolutely.
the word. That is a word. But yeah, so I really want us to make sure that we do something outside of this about that, because that is a topic that is normally not talked about as much. Um, One time actually had someone, an owner, tell me, "Oh, I don't want to work with a veteran because I have to do a termite inspection."
A termite inspection is like $50, $60.
I said,
It
"Excuse
doesn't, you
me?
know,
No. Oh, baby, we didn't play those games at all. I wouldn't care if it was 550. You cannot tell
yeah,
me, a licensed Illinois realtor, that you specifically do not want to work with someone because of that. Absolutely not. That was a coaching conversation. And I feel like as advocates of our communities, we have to have a conversation with our clients, whether it be sellers or buyers. We have to be
yes,
extremely open and honest. We're too busy trying to save face. That is not going to help push our community forward. We got to educate people. And if they really understand our intention, they will know that it comes from a place of just making sure that they don't color outside the lines.
absolutely.
Because you're
I
not going to
agree.
have me coloring outside no lines. So I'm going to let you
Yeah.
know in the door. And I've honestly had to not do business with people because of their inability to be open minded, right?
Hmm.
Other part of that is our voucher community.
Yes.
I think that that is a huge, huge misconception
Yes.
when they
Shout
try,
out to Jimmy on that too, because I mean,
right?
that's an amazing program.
They're trying to purchase and they're getting all of these questions. What is the problem? Here's my
Yeah.
loan. I'm qualified. This is all you need to know. It shouldn't matter if my voucher is going to help me purchase. I'm purchasing. I'm ready to purchase. And so
Yes.
when we think about fair housing, there are so many things that we can cover today. I'm kind of glad that we're touching on some of like a variety of these topics,
Hmm.
because they all matter and they all lead to one thing: being able to push home ownership. That is all we want. That is it.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's it. I mean, housing is a right.
Comments.
Housing is a right.
Listen, they are not playing. Hi, checking in from Indiana.
Hey.
Hey, Coach Carrie Willis on LinkedIn checking in. Hey, beautiful. Thank you so much. Yvette and Jimmy, y'all having y'all own conversation. So I'm going to just let y'all have at it.
Yes. She said people are sleeping on vouchers. Look, and they are.
They
This is an
are.
amazing program. When I tell you that I have told people about this program and they think I am making it up.
Yeah.
You are getting your mortgage paid for 15 years or 30 years, depending on the
Depending on the
situation. It's
situation.
like,
That's right.
this
That's
is the that magic carpet we're talking about to middle class. You're taking people out of the renter wheel
yeah.
and putting them into foundational housing
There you go.
that's still subsidized. And that is huge. I feel like every major city, every major metropolis should have some form of this program.
Yeah. And I feel like, so I was in a meeting. I went to Springfield, and that was last week. Oh my God, that was last week. I went
Yeah,
to
that was last
Springfield,
week.
and we learned about the true deficit of home ownership, right? We learned about the true deficit of not having enough housing and the true impact, because see, we're in our little Chicago bubble. We don't understand that this is a problem in the state of Illinois. This is not a
Hmm.
Chicago problem. This is a state of Illinois problem. And so when Governor J.B. Pritzker stood in front of us, almost 1,000 agents, 1,000 realtors, I should say, in Springfield, and he shared his build program, he shared a program that would allow us to potentially start getting ahead of that curve, because the state of Illinois is headed for danger as it relates to
Hmm.
housing. And so any program that helps to promote housing right? That is good for the community and good for the people should absolutely be pushed to the forefront.
Yes.
Any red tape, because I feel like that's where Chicago gets our hiccups. We get that red tape in us, and we got these different processes, and the left hand doesn't talk to the right hand, and vice versa.
Yes.
We got developers whose timelines are tied up and months and months and months and months out. I've seen development projects that never even came because they were in the process of permitting, and the permit
Yeah.
took so long that it took their project from here to here. They can't even afford to build anymore, right?
Yeah.
We literally have developers that are walking away from projects, knowing that our state is short almost 250,000 homes. We're headed for danger. And so when it comes to fair housing and it comes to these different programs, everything that we do, the attitude that we have, the myths that we put
Hmm.
into our communities, right? The behaviors that we encourage within our own ecosystems, within our own communities, is harmful to the overall longevity
It's
of
harmful.
our community.
Absolutely. It is. And unless we have folks like you going to Springfield and having these conversations, because on the high level, the lawmaker, policymaker perspective, they don't see it with the lens we see it through.
Yes.
So I drive by and I see all these dilapidated homes and I say, hey, there's an opportunity
That's
to
it.
create more housing. Let's figure out a way to get those dilapidated homes into new housing so that we can solve the housing shortage. But if you are
Absolutely.
a policymaker, you don't know about these things. So I commend you for taking that trip and going down there and advocating for us, because it feels like we're just not being heard here on our level. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you for that.
Well, I can say this: we were loud and we were proud, and we had questions. We asked questions. We heard from obviously Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. We heard from House Speaker Chris Welch, who gave a very powerful breakdown of where we are and where we are headed. And it's not until you go into those spaces that you realize this is bigger than Chicago. This is really a problem across the entire state. And so when we think about these resources and we think about solutions, our solutions have to span beyond Chicago. We have Cook
Yeah.
County, right? We have all of these other counties that are also struggling with housing shortages. And so, how
Yes.
do we get in front of that? Because if we don't, we're going to continue to have people do the great exodus out of Chicago. They're going to do the great exodus out of the state of
Yep.
Illinois. And that too is going to be impactful because then we're going to have communities that may fall into disrepair, right? Some people
Yes.
just decide to walk away from their properties. The second session that we had was with Ed Beavers of Country Financial,
Hmm.
wealth strategist and insurance genius, right? And so what he was talking about is protection, because if we don't have these properties protected and we don't have a safe way to pass them down through generations, now we're dealing
Yes.
with probate. Well, who has money for probate?
Yeah. And
Who
it can,
has money
yeah.
for probate? Like, what are we doing? And so all of this it's interchangeable. It's an entire
Yeah.
ecosystem.
It
Um,
is.
so yeah, it is just really, it was eye-opening listening to them in Springfield and really identifying. And sometimes we get on an island. Chicago, we get on an island,
Yeah.
but it was nice to look amongst all of these realtors from Grundy County, Kane County, other parts of Cook County, downstate, towns that we really, some towns I didn't
Even,
know
yeah.
existed.
Yeah. You didn't even know they're down there, but they have their own set of struggles, whether
They
it's
got their
rural
own
housing,
struggles.
lack of water source, like just different issues in
Yeah,
each part of the state that we all collectively have to come together to address. We can't just pick and
absolutely.
choose which ones, but I think that starting with Chicago, because I feel like we get beat up the most, right? Everyone thinks Chicago is sucking everything from the state, but
Right.
we're actually paying a lot into the state.
Yeah.
Help us renovate and rejuvenate our communities, especially Inglewood. Again, shout out to Rage, what they're doing there. Inglewood is going to have a change that I encourage you to get in front of now.
Yep.
Because once that
Already
change
happening.
happens,
It's already
it's a
happening.
wrap.
It's
you
already
know.
happening. Jimmy said he just left DC with the housing authorities from all over. They too are experiencing similar challenges. No surprise
Hmm.
there.
Yep, no surprise.
This is a huge issue, and it's even bigger than Illinois, right? We're talking
Yeah,
about Illinois, but at the end of the day, we talk about how unaffordable some of our housing is, but to other states, we're still one of the most affordable. The Midwest is the most
it
affordable
is.
community right now.
It is.
And
We have an actual defined middle class, which a lot of people take for granted. Shout out to Louisiana, which is where my family's from, New Orleans specifically, the Treme area
shout
specifically.
out
I
to
don't
the
want to keep
Treme
talking the
community.
Treme.
Look,
So,
I
you
love
know,
New Orleans now. That's a
that's
whole
my
nother show.
home. That's my home. But in the Treme specifically, which is the oldest Black neighborhood in the United States, only
Gentrification.
30% Black home ownership compared to
Yep.
the rest of the city. In
Yeah.
addition to that, the city has imposed rules where they can't do short-term rentals like the Airbnbs to take advantage of the tourism, especially if they live there or have a homeowner's exemption. They can't take advantage of that. So they still use these policies to kind of starve people out of that community.
Oh, yeah.
But with the change of the culture, the
Oh, yeah.
gentrification, the building of the highway through the middle of it, there's other states that are struggling more than we are.
I mean, look at
So
Brooklyn. Brooklyn is
look at Brooklyn.
Brooklyn
Yeah.
was entirely, and we gonna switch the subject in a minute, but Brooklyn was entirely a Black community. If you go to Brooklyn now, you
Yep.
will not be able to identify Brooklyn. There
The
is an
culture has
entire
changed.
there's an entire community organization that's called Bring Brooklyn Black, not back.
Yep.
Bring Brooklyn Black, because this is happening in every community. And as
It
much as
is.
I love to see new development, these catalytic developments are going to change the landscape of our communities, and we
It
have to
will.
be prepared. That means we have to have our credit right. We have to have savings accounts. We have to have our projects and our properties in a trust. We have to have our assets cleared. We need to know if something happens to the breadwinner, where's the paperwork, right? That has all of the
Hmm.
pertinent information, so that we don't have to go through a probate process. Um,
Right.
Coach Carrie Willis says she had to build in Texas because of Illinois' taxes.
Yeah. I can imagine that. The
I can
taxes have
imagine.
gotten higher, for
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely. Hey, Vet, thank you for joining. She has to jump
We
off.
need we need a vet back.
Yeah,
She'll have
we
to come
definitely
back.
have her. We're gonna have her back, baby. She is a beast in the industry. And when I say she goes hard for the veterans, she goes hard for the veterans. I'm surprised that you guys actually haven't connected before.
Haven't met.
But
We'll
everything
connect
happens for a
today.
reason.
Right.
Everything happens for a reason. So listen, we are 3 minutes away from our 8 o'clock hour, and we want to be respectful of your time, Joy,
Well,
and
listen,
else.
that it seems like you need another hour next time. And, plan accordingly because we can talk about this all day. This is my cup of tea. I
I know.
love shedding light on this. This is
I
my
love
favorite thing.
I love it. So moving into the last couple of minutes, right?
Hmm.
Hold on, Yvette said that before she leaves, she wanted to mention she is educating investors and the entire community on
Okay.
how to utilize our strengths in the veteran community. So, and so much more. So yeah,
Awesome.
definitely connect with us on LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Yvette, for joining. Thank you for all you do in the community as well as advocates in the community. So, Joy,
Mhm.
I'm gonna put it back on you. I'm gonna stop talking. I want you to close us out. Fair Housing Month and Earth Day. Y'all see, I got on my green dress.
I didn't get the memo. I'm
I got,
sorry.
I got on my green for Earth Day. So shouts out to Earth Day 422. There was another holiday on 420 that we're not going to acknowledge, but I could
We're
have
not
worn
gonna talk. That was Earth Day too, right?
it was Earth Day for somebody,
It was
honey.
Earth Day for somebody.
Close us out, Joy. You got a few seconds.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think this is so vital. We're leading the charge. I feel like we're the new civil rights leaders, right? We're trying to push forward everything that was done in 1968 because the second that we stop is the second that the gap widens, right? We're trying to close that gap. So it's going to require the education we talked about. It will require the advocacy, whether you are a real estate agent, a lender, a home inspector, an appraiser. We
Yeah.
need more appraisers of color I'm just putting that out there. So, as many people as we can get in the industry to kind of resolve the bias issues that we have. Again, not all bias is intentional, but
Sure.
it is laid. It's a foundational precedent for
Yes.
what we're seeing today. So if you need me as a resource, I am a licensed lender. I have over 20 years experience. I'm licensed in several states. I am a veteran advocate. I absolutely love my veterans. I come from a military family, the Navy, the Marines, the Army, from my great grandparent down to my cousins. I absolutely love helping veterans. And I love working with you, Cassandra.
I love working with you too. I'm going to put your information here so that way I can make sure to share that. And we're going to get your information down at the bottom of the screen. If you guys are just wanting to learn a little bit more about the community and advocacy work that Joy does, they do a ton of workshops. She's in every community. She's at every engagement. Anything that has to do with community, someone from a member of her team is there. Do you want to really quickly talk a little bit about the event that you guys have on May the 20th for those leaders in the industry that might be watching?
Yes, it's May 20th. I am looking for leaders like Miss Yvette. Mr. Jimmy Stewart is going. I hope you're going, Cassandra.
Going.
I want to have my advocate partners in the room.
Yeah.
If you are that, please reach out to me, and I would love to send you an invite. We're going to be at our corporate office. We're going to talk about strategies to not only bridge that gap, whether it's for the language gap we talked about, but also the gap between what we do as lenders and the community. We want to just put us together in one room so that we can strategize on how to tackle these issues that we're facing.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, I certainly appreciate you, sis, for hopping on today. Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Time out of your busy day, and boy, has it been busy.
It's okay.
Really, really quickly, I just want to share my contact information as well. It is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Again, I am your girl, Miss Cass, Vice President of Community Engagement for Exit Strategy Realty. And if you are in the Chicagoland area or the suburbs and you are interested in learning how we do business, if we need to help take you through the journey of ownership, if you are looking to sell, we do both residential as well as commercial in our office, and we would love to be of assistance. You want to work with a realtor who is boots on the ground in a community. And when I tell you my boots is on the ground,
always.
Always. Listen, the song is about me, actually. Boots on the ground.
Is.
He made that song for me.
I have never been anywhere where she wasn't at. She's been at every event that I've ever been to. She's literally out in the community.
It is so intentional though, right? It is really.
It is.
Some rooms I just won't be in. They're just not for me. But
Right.
I'm always a believer that if you are not at the table, you are on the menu. And we cannot have our community on
That's
the menu
right.
longer. Okay. We are
I love
breaking
that.
generational curses. And we encourage you to reach out to both of us. We would love to work with you. In
Absolutely.
terms of our fair housing series, which is getting ready to wrap, I'm so sad because I'm excited. We have our last and final session next Wednesday, and we're going to talk about organizations that help to, educate around fair housing, organizations that are boots on the ground doing the work. If you are an organization that is boots on the ground doing the work, I am actually, full transparency, still looking for a guest speaker. So if you are interested in coming back to the show,
you should have Jimmy on. Jimmy and Yvette.
7:00. Jimmy, if you're available next week, 7:00, let me know. I would love to have you on the show. And if not, I will come and speak about some of the organizations because I'm in the community. So I sit at the table with a lot of these organizations. So worst case scenario, you'll just have me. It's okay.
Girl, that's a plus. That's a plus.
It's okay, but we really want to take a moment to thank everybody that showed up, engaged, commented. I have like 6 extra comments. Are you seeing these comments? Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Jimmy.
Okay.
Thank you, Jimmy. Oh my God. Thank you again, Yvette. If you're still listening, she is like shouting out. Okay, yep. She sent her the link. You saw that one. Thank you, Coach Carrie. And the connection request. Let's elevate and listen. Let's elevate and network. Our network.
I like that.
Network
Let's do
And
it.
elevate our net worth. How about I get that right? Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Facebook, if you joined there. Thank you, LinkedIn. LinkedIn was busting at the seams tonight, honey.
I
Thank you, LinkedIn.
see.
YouTube, if you're watching, thank you so very much. Again, next week, same time. And let me know if I need to continue a series such as this, because
Yeah,
I feel
you
like this is
do.
kind of a I do.
Don't even
Don't even
think
play.
about it. You do. You do.
Okay.
There's a lot of good information.
Okay.
A
We'll have
lot
to
of
talk
good.
about that offline.
Okay.
Look, we'll have to talk about that. But no, seriously, thank you guys so much for joining. If you are a realtor in the industry and you are looking for a great agency and an agency where you can grow, I highly encourage you to join our networking event, which is coming up. Please reach out to me for more information. We will be having a networking event at Exit Strategy Realty. You can text Miss Cass to 85377 to learn more about that, learn more about our agency, and learn more about why we do what we do in and around our communities. That's all I got, guys. We're 5 minutes over. I
All
certainly
right.
apologize.
Oh,
All
we
right.
got another comment.
We got,
Oh, you two are the best. Thank you, Jimmy.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Look, we could stay on here longer, but I'm getting ready
Look,
to.
Yvette said, I'm still here. She said she was dropping off.
Oh my goodness.
Okay,
Look,
you
look,
too.
now she's talking about
Okay.
boots on the ground. Look.
I have to meet Yvette. I have
You
to.
got
I
to.
have
Oh my
to.
God. She is amazing. And the energy that she has is just outstanding. And I love that. I love being able to shout out other people for the work that they do. So thank you guys so
Absolutely.
much. I really enjoyed this, Joy. Thank you for taking time.
Thank you.
I gotta
It's
do
my
this more
pleasure.
often.
Anytime. Absolutely.
Definitely got to do
Let
it
me
more
know.
often. And I would say to the community, stay tuned because we are going to be doing so many more webinars and workshops in person as well. So feel
Yes.
free to stay tuned. Do you have anything going on at Kelly's? Because you normally hang out at Kelly's. What's the next Kelly's date?
Well, I would like to do something. Maybe we'll put together another real estate meetup.
Okay. Shouts
Okay.
out to
So
Kelly's. You want to shout Kelly's out real quick? Tell them the location.
yes. So Kelly's is at. We always have to tell them exactly how to get in there because we know it's a little
Listen, I
weird,
got
but
lost. Okay, help us out, please.
it's on 35th in Indiana. So if you're familiar with 35th in Indiana, there's McDonald's on the south side of the street. You have to go through there's a little gangway and you go back, there's a parking lot. But upstairs, it's a really beautiful spot. It's called
Can't they just come
Kelly's.
to
I
the
don't know.
parking lot?
Yeah, they can just go to the parking lot.
It'll be easier. Just tell them come down. What is that? Indiana?
Indiana or
Past.
35th
Oh God.
or 35th. Because you missed it too that
I missed it.
time, right? Like you missed the entrance. But
Interesting.
we're going to do an event there because I'm past due. We did one last month, but we haven't done
Yeah.
one this month yet. But we'll
Okay.
put something together, and I want all our real estate professionals in the house so that we can get together.
Awesome. All right. Well, you heard it first. Come out, come and engage. We talk about business. We talk about personal. We talk about everything in between. Kelly says great food
Everything.
and great drinks.
Great
Yeah.
drinks.
So come out and engage with us. We'd love to see you. That's all I got, honey.
Awesome.
Anything
Peace
else you'd like
out.
to share? Talk about peace out.
Oh, I think, like I said, this thing I could talk about quite a bit. I have a
Yeah.
book coming out. I have a book. But I didn't want to, I have a book coming out. It's coming out this month.
We get ready to go now. You're goofing off. Shout your book out, honey.
I know. So it'll be live before the end of this month.
Okay.
It's called The Forever Fight. And it
Okay.
just talks about what it is that we've been doing these 20 plus years in our
Wow.
industry and just trying to reverse the residual effects of the redlining and
lot of
close
work.
the gap. But it's a collaborative effort. So this is definitely a manual for real estate partners, appraisers, lenders, consumers can all get something from this manual.
All right. The Forever Fight.
Yes.
All right. Look out for that. Amazon bestseller on the way. So hey, we claiming it. Have a great
Speaking
evening.
into existence.
You all as well. Speaking into existence. That's all I got here. We getting ready to close it out, you all. Again, you got our contact information. If there's anything you need from us, please don't hesitate to ask. We would love to work with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you again, Fair Housing Month. Please take some time to educate yourselves about fair housing if you have not done so. Chicago has a lot of history, good, bad, and ugly. It is what it is. We got to learn it so that we do not repeat it. So have a great night. It's Cass, and I got my girl Joy here closing us out.
This was fun.
This was fun. I know you don't want to go, but we got to go. We got a life to live. Okay?
We got to go.
We got to go, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Where's Miss Cass? I'm glad you asked. Hey, Chicago.
Introduced to Cassandra, aka the Dream Team.
Happy Friday. So guys, I am here with Miss Cass at one of the beautiful properties in Woodlawn. We are actually on market. How are the condos? Is a condo a good purchase? And
yeah, that's not the way to go.
Don't do it. That is not